Hi everyone, this is Betsy from Agility with Sound, producer of WordChain and writer of decodable books for older students, including secondary students. This video is about comprehension and most especially making inferences. How can the skills of inferencing be taught and why decodable texts? This is from the 2023 National Reading Assessment, and this relates to the achievement of Year 8 students. Fewer than half of the students surveyed reached or exceeded the benchmark expected for Year 8 students, with 43% of students more than a year behind. The panel identified two areas of particular concern. This is from their report: vocabulary and especially inferring the meaning of words in reading is one area of particular concern, and inferencing is the other. As a general pattern, students were able to remember details, but making inferences was noticeably weak. So this video is about the collection of decodables for comprehension, a large collection of decodable texts written for older students, meaning in years 5 to 10. A few of these are a little childish for secondary students. Some are on themes unsuitable for 9-year-olds. However, most are non-fiction or based on non-fiction and suitable for all students in this age range. The focus of all of these books is inferencing, building the skills required to make the connection that inferencing involves and inferring a probable meaning of unfamiliar words. They are listed by the Reading League, based in New York, an alliance of reading scientists committed to evidence-based practices in schools. Their list of decodables for older students is quite short, and I'm thrilled that this collection is included. I think the only collection from outside America and Britain. And it is certainly the only collection that exists that has this primary comprehension focus. But why decodables? To truly comprehend text, readers need to give their full, undivided attention to what the writer is telling them. They cannot do this if much or most of their thinking is diverted to figuring out the words. This is much the most common and predominant stumbling block to comprehension. Nor can they comprehend if they do not know the meaning of the words or if they do not have the skills to infer a probable meaning. And they must know what the writer is talking about, the background information that the writer has assumed they will be familiar with. Older students recoil from books written for younger kids. They are demeaning and insulting. They cannot be expected to take the comprehension involved seriously. And then a book must be worth comprehending. It must be on an age-appropriate topic that is of interest, that sparks curiosity, is worth the effort involved in figuring it all out. And finally, if the students are to learn to make connections, to infer, there must be connections and inferences to make. These books take all of this into account. To learn to comprehend, students need books that they can read, want to read, and meet their learning needs. In these books, the learning need is primarily about making those connections and learning to infer, including making connections and in learning to infer the meaning of unfamiliar words. Yes, they are decodable. That eliminates the issue of figuring out words. But they are not about decoding practice. That should happen elsewhere before the student opens the book. Few students can focus on figuring out words and the thinking required to make inferences at the same time. So new vocabulary is introduced wherever possible, but always, always with explicit clues around the new word. It is easy to infer the meaning of these words. Students are learning to infer a probable meaning from context. The dictionary should be a tool of last resort. There should be no reason to look up words readers encounter in these books. Yes, of course, teaching vocabulary is critical, but the vast majority of new vocabulary is picked up in the process of reading. Students need to learn how to do that. That eliminates the second issue of unfamiliar vocabulary. The third block to comprehension, background knowledge, is covered in the comprehension guide. What needs explaining to the students? Where, if necessary, can they find the information they need? Is this information essential to make sense of the story? Something we need to discover right now? Or can it wait until we finish reading? There is certainly an important place for illustrations in books for young beginner readers, but it is different for older students. I avoid illustrations unless they are absolutely essential for several reasons. Firstly, the book should look age appropriate. Other students of this age are well past picture books. Then, we know that struggling readers typically look at the illustrations to help identify tricky words, but students need to learn to read the words and not rely on the pictures to help figure out the difficult ones. And then there is comprehension and imagining the scene or the characters for yourself is an important aspect of comprehending the text. The focus needs to be on success, achievement, conquering the foe, not dumbing it down or propping it up with masses of colour. I had this comment about comprehension from someone today. I try to get them to make a movie in their heads while reading, but with lots of pictures in the book, it's hard for them to visualize on their own. So we now know that comprehension is teachable. It is, in essence, about interacting with the author and responding in much the same way as a normal conversation. Words like why, how, when, but what if, the sort of responses that drive conversation should pop into students' heads as they read. It is about making connections with the text. How does this hint or explanation here connect with that outcome there? It is about actively seeking the gist. And your point is, as many kids would say, it is about making connections between the text and the reader's life experiences and knowledge. These are the thoughts and responses that drive a satisfactory conversation. Comprehension, in essence, is about a conversation with the author. So the most effective way to do this is to model the thinking of competent readers as students read. Questioning is effective too, but not the sort of question that simply tests if students have got it. Questioning to guide and aid a student's thinking to help them get it is an altogether different thing. Testing comprehension and teaching comprehension are not the same thing. I'll show you what I mean. This title is from the selection of the simplest books, made up of three-letter words and a few of the highest frequency words. Some, including this one, have an S suffix, cats, dogs, and so on, and the double final consonant in words like puff and mess. There are 20 titles at this level, 12 of them suitable for secondary students, including this one. This one is over 500 words long. This one is a pig hunting story, not for all students, but a topic of intense interest to others. This is from the student script, and you can see that double L there. and that S suffix there. And this is from the teacher script, the same part of the story. This is priming kids to start thinking about the content from the beginning. So we start with some background information. I do it for my kids. Straight away, I can see that this is told from a parent's point of view. I am wondering what is coming. Could it be cooking, washing, reading a book? I get my gun, I let the dogs off and hop in the van, I rev it up, and I am off. So it is none of those. What could it be? I go to the hills. A pig lives up the hill, and I will get it for my kids. A leg of pig, a bit of ham, yum, yum. I can see this is up in the hills, possibly in the bush. Can you imagine the setting, or should we look for a picture to help us? So if you Google New Zealand native bush, many images will come up. If you add pig in the search, some images of live pigs will appear, among the more confronting ones. The dogs yap and yap and hem the pig in. We have to think about that word hem. Can you see what the dogs are trying to do? They do not want it to get away, so where are the dogs? We don't know how many there are, but I have a picture in my head of maybe three. You might have a different picture. I run, run and puff a lot. The sun has set. It is dim. I cannot see well. And you can see cannot there is broken into two words to make figuring it all out easy. By the time they get to level two, it's into one word again. There are clues there that tell me what dim must mean. Can you spot them? So that's building vocabulary. Again, the dogs sit, sit and puff. The dogs have had it. This is a different meaning of had it than, say, had a drink. They have done a lot of running, have kept the pig from escaping. They are puffing. Does that all give you a clue? I get my bag, I cut up the pig, I get rid of the guts, I rip off a lot of the fat, I cut off the ribs and the legs and jam the bits into the bag. I fill the bag to the top, and there you can see into is split into two words for the same reason as cannot was. So he is not carrying out the whole pig, just the bits he needs. Can you tell what he wants them for? And of course, the title is another clue there. So it's a little bit of vocabulary there and a little bit of inferencing, very basic inferencing. So to respond to that last question, the students need to think about what they know as meat is food and perhaps connect this to the title of the story. They are making a connection from outside the text. This book may be made up of the simplest words, but its content is appropriate for 9-year-olds, for secondary students, even for adults. As you can imagine, it is not easy to construct a story for older students limited to 3-letter words with a strong comprehension focus. However, the primary focus at this level is developing engagement with reading and visualizing what has happened. A follow-up activity like this is available for all level 1 and 2 books. The students draw what they imagine, and stick figures are just fine, or perhaps even just a cross with a word. These 4 cells summarize the story, make sure the student has figured out the meaning of some of these phrases, in what way are dogs like a jet, and developing visual skills all at once. Level 2 adds in th, sh, and ch, and the simplest suffixes ing, ed, er, and y as in funny. In the book I'm about to show you, the word rubbish appears multiple times. The first time the reader encounters it, it is broken up for effortless decoding like this, rub-ish, and thereafter it is presented as a whole word. So the problem of a soccer mad dad is a problem and solution story, a very common theme. The problem is dad and his mates, whose irritating constant chatter about soccer drives the household to come up with a solution, creating a soccer den in the shed. It is to be a present for dad's birthday, so it must be done in secret. But first, the rubbish that has accumulated in the shed must be disposed of. And in the process, they make a discovery that changes everything. There is a heavy emphasis on vocabulary development in this book. We had a look in the shed. We saw a big box on top of a not so big box, a rubbish bag on top of that, boxes on boxes, bags on bags. Such a mess. Said Mum, let's begin at the top. She tossed a bag for me to carry to the skip. She got a big box and tipped it into the skip. I got a not so big box and biffed it in. Mum nabbed two rubbish bags and lobbed them at the skip. Boxes and bags filled with rubbish were tossed or tipped or biffed. There are some new words here, biffed and lobbed. What are they doing when they biff or lob? There's also nabbed to think about. And you can see that into is now one word, whereas in the level one box, it was two. We had to hurry. We cannot dither, said Mum, and that word hurry is the clue. We have to be rid of the skip before Dad comes with a bag of fish for us. Yet another new word, dither. How are we going to work out what it might mean? The student should work out that it means to go slowly. Explain that it is more than this. Slow, because someone cannot make up their mind quickly. Will I take this box or that box? Should I look at this one just in case? So there is plenty of new vocabulary here. Biffed, lobbed. It is abundantly obvious what these words mean, that they're related to throwing. Lugged, it's easy to infer a broad meaning. And then down here, dither, and a little further down the page, we cannot tarry. That makes 5 new words on this page. They're not words high on the list of important vocabulary, but that's not the point. The students are learning how to infer meaning from context and understanding that they can. And then a drawing activity to visualize and summarize the story. Books at this level, level 3, use a few more of the highest frequency words and introduce A, Y, as in fly, and OW words, and the CK pattern, and then some more 2-letter suffixes or word endings like LE or LY. Students have already learnt how to decode these words in word chain, which builds all decoding skills, including efficient blending skills. Decoding the words in the story should be automatic and effortless. So this book is about the common European cuckoo, which migrates from the forests of Central Africa to Europe to lay eggs in the nests of other birds. How do they get away with it? What must the cuckoo, and eventually her chick, do to deceive the host birds? Why pick on little birds to raise their offspring? And what must the little birds do to fend off the cuckoo and avoid being conned into raising someone else's chick? There are many connections across the text to figure this out. But some background first. Before we start reading, I'm thinking about that word imposter in the title. Does anyone know what it means? I guess there will be some clues in the story. Let me know when you spot them. And we also need to talk about that word cuckoo in the second line, where the U is making an oo sound, not an ah sound. It's the only word in the whole book that is not strictly decodable or high frequency. Have you heard of a cuckoo? I know it is a bird, but I don't know a lot about it. What do you know? Discuss it with the group. Let's see what else we can find out. Do you think the nest in the title is a cuckoo's nest? Let's find out. From near the bottom of the first page, the hen cuckoo stays hidden, but she is spying on that little dunnock. She will quickly fly to the nest when the dunnock goes looking for food. She will land on the rim and pick up one dunnock egg in her bill. Maybe she will gobble it down, or perhaps she will just chuck it away. I can see why she would gobble it down, but why chuck it away? Tell me when you have figured it out. She is in such a hurry, so she does not sit in the nest. She stays on the rim with her back to it, and her egg falls in from there. So she has laid an egg in this nest. Does that give you a clue about why she would chuck one of the dunnock eggs away? It has a very thick shell, so it does not smash as it lands. If it hits a dunnock egg, that egg may crack. So much the better for the cuckoo. I'm wondering why. Perhaps it's connected to throwing one egg out of the nest. She then calls to the dunnock, a chuckle, mimicking a dunnock enemy, a dunnock killer. Mimicking. What must that mean? I can see she wants to frighten the dunnock, but why? This was a book intended to explain the behaviour of cuckoos. The answer to why she is chucking one egg out of the nest would probably be up here with a because or so that, and I could have done that. But that is not inferencing. The answer is further down, and it is hinted at rather than directly stated. The students must infer. They must ask, why up here? And instructed to watch for the explanation, which comes further down here. This is making inferences across the text. The little dunnock shivers. She will not go back to the nest, not yet. She does not want to become a snack for an enemy. She delays going back until the enemy has gone, until the calling has stopped. Now she is in a hurry to get back. She wants to get down low in the nest as quickly as she can. She checks the eggs to see that they are all hers, checking that there is no imposter egg in the nest, a cuckoo egg. There's that word imposter, broken up for quick decoding. What do you think it might mean? The cuckoo egg is bigger, it is speckled, and hers are not. That does not matter. There are still 4 eggs. At this point, students should pick up on why one egg was tossed from the nest. That is all she sees. With that enemy about, she is ruffled and upset and in a rush to get the checking done. I'm getting a sense of why the cuckoo mimicked the call of the enemy. I imagine it is a sparrowhawk, a bird that hunts and kills the dunnocks. How might the dunnock have behaved differently if she had not heard that call? How does that help the cuckoo? The cuckoos have come to this thicket in Scotland from the middle of Africa, just so she can lay eggs. They must fly non-stop for much of the way. They want to be in Scotland when the hen dunnocks are about to lay eggs. From the middle of Africa, that sounds like a long way. Do we need to find out how far it is to make sense of the story? Do we need to find that out now? Or can it wait until we finish reading? And when the student gets to the end of the book, it is relevant. The cuckoo chick, fledged and fattened up and just a few months old, takes off alone and flies from Scotland, in this case, to Central Africa, over Spain, over the Mediterranean, over the Sahara Desert, where it must fly several kilometres above the Earth's surface, where the air is cool, all unaided. I hope the students are as fascinated by this solar journey and how the chick knows where to go as I am. And I am a tracker from level 4. AR, NG, and many more initial blends are added in here, and the words are becoming longer. It is about the skills of search and rescue trackers, the clues and techniques they use to find missing people. But many students will first need to know about the search and rescue service, and that is explained here. The call from the cops came just after 6 o'clock. A little kid is missing in Bramley Forest. It is getting dark. It is getting chilly. This kid is just 7, and of course, that's from the student book. This sounds like an emergency. The call seems to have come from someone who was not from the police. I guess he is from search and rescue. I know a bit about search and rescue. Ordinary people who are called out to help find missing people. They go on training courses at the weekends so they know what to do and can be called to help the police at any time. That's the background information to make sense of this story. I quickly gobbled some dinner, grabbed my bag from the shed, and rushed to the car park where we are together. No stopping to put anything in his bag, so I suppose he has it ready to save time. I wonder what he will have in there. Let's make a list of what he might need as we read the story. And in this story, we hear the story of one of the trackers who became lost in this very forest when he was 7 years old, and about his fears and so on, and what will make them finding him more difficult. We are told how he became lost and what happened next until this happened. And then I pick up that men are calling me, lots of men, and dogs are barking, and I somehow know it is the cops and their dogs. Let's remember all his fears and think about what he might do now. I know they will be angry. I know I will get a telling off if they spot me. They may lock me up to punish me. Remember, he's only 7. He is now worrying about getting into trouble with the police. But I reckon when it is properly dark, they will give up, go away, get some dinner, and go to bed. So is he going to yell out to let them know where he is? I look for a good spot for lying down. I must stay hidden, stay very still. Hush, hush. I must not let them spot me. I must not cry, must not utter a thing. I must stay like that until they go away. I will get out of this forest somehow tomorrow. So, of all his worries, what scares him the most? So, we are not told what happened next. We know he got out because he is now an adult. Did he get found that night? Did his mum and dad hug him or yell at him? Did he get into trouble with the police? What makes you think all this? And then it goes on. Now we all gather at the car park, the cops and me, to quickly get a plan together. So that is the end of him remembering being lost when he was a child. He is an adult now, and we're back to the call out. We chat to the kid's mum and dad. We want to know how big this kid is. We want to know what he is like, what alarms or startles him. We want to know where they saw him on the track, where he vanished. I want to know about his boots, how big they are, and later on we're told the relevance of that. I am noticing that there are questions that everyone wants an answer to, and one question that came from the storyteller. Why do they want to know what startles him? I wonder. What do you think? And then here's the answer back here. There are 21 titles at level 5, but I'll skip to level 6, where there are 18 titles, all but one of them suitable for secondary students, and many of them also suitable for year 5 and 6. Books at this level include the initial and final blends of previous levels, still with simple suffixes only, but with more vowels, the silent E pattern and its corollary, a single consonant, with EE and EA making the E sound only, IGH or an R. So the runaway of this title is a slave who escapes from his owner in Kentucky and makes his way to freedom in Canada. How does he survive? Who helps him? And who in the end betrays him and why? And what about his wife and child, also owned by the same slave master? So we need to start with some background information that students will need. Before reading this book, make sure the students have some basic background knowledge of slavery in the United States. Discuss what they know and explain, if necessary, the following. That people were captured in Africa and shipped to work in America. This went on for about 200 years, beginning soon after America was settled by Europeans. Slaves worked for nothing, were often underfed and badly treated. Slaves were the property of the slaveholder and could be bought and sold like cows are today. Children were often separated from their parents, husband from wife. And then from early on in the text, but even as a small child, I listened to those white folks chat about runaway slaves, about how they escaped and how they were arrested and dragged back, about the floggings, the lashings with whips to within an inch of their lives to teach them a lesson. But I know that some were never apprehended. Some got their freedom. Somehow, I too was going to become a free man. Apprehended is broken up into bits that the students know so that they can put that word together quickly without interrupting comprehension. Have you figured out what that word apprehended must mean? It seems that running away is severely punished, and most did not make it. I wonder what he is thinking about that. What do you think? We've been told of his determination back here, but students must think about what this person would do, not what they would do in the same situation. So even in a free state, it is not a safe place for runaway slaves. Keeping slaves is forbidden, but arresting runaways is not. Even fellow blacks are happy to betray runaways for cash, to have us sent back to our owners in order to line their own pockets. To be really safe, I need to get to Canada. This is from further down in the book. So who will be paying the black people? Do you think this would work better than paying white people? And why? And what does it tell us about the laws in Canada? So the students are not told the answers. They must make an inference from outside the state. And then from further down in the book, I begin to steal from my master and sell the goods. A sack of corn one day, a chicken the next, and cash when I get the chance. My secret savings are growing well, but then I meet Melinda. We can all imagine what would happen if he was caught stealing. He must have been very good at it. I can see that Melinda is going to change things. What do you think is going to happen next? So students must think outside the text about what they know about people generally and what influences them. They must balance this with his determination to get free. And further down in the book, I set off from Christmas Day, a day off for slaves and masters alike, and I make my way to the river, the border between this slave state and freedom. I have some fine clothes stolen from my master, which I slip into as I make my way to the evening ferry. Darkness is my helper, my support. Let's think about what is special about Christmas Day. What will the masters be doing? Why do you think he chose this day? So this is more inferencing from outside of the text. What do you know about Christmas and what usually happens? And further down, it is a harrowing trip. I stay in the shadows, my dark face hidden as much as possible. What if someone speaks to me, wants to see papers that show I am a free man, not a runaway? This steamer is carrying white folk, and some at least must be slave owners from Kentucky. How will they behave if they see me? Let's go back to that word harrowing. Can you figure out what it must mean? And how will slave owners behave if they see him? There are many blacks. He is not necessarily a runaway. I am thinking about the clothing he stole from his master, so let's discuss that. Students are not told how slave owners might react. They must infer. They are not told why he stole clothes from his master. Again, they must infer. And the teacher script sets that process in motion. But it is a trap. The next morning, as I set off to Canada, I am grabbed by three hefty white men, slave owners from Kentucky, up here looking for runaways. I think slaves must be very valuable property, and besides that, they will not want other slaves thinking they can get away with escaping. It's modelling the thinking of competent comprehenders. I am thrown into prison. I am to be kept there until more runaways are kidnapped, until we can be shackled together for the trip back to our punishment and our captive lives. There's that word shackle again, which we had earlier in the story in a different context. What do you think it means here? But luck is with me. The old man who comes with my food tells me of two blocks on the back wall that can be taken out, allowing my escape. Why does he tell me? Is he in the pay of those who want to see slavery abolished? Bribed by those gentle folk? Can you answer those questions? And then towards the end of the story, I call in on my mum, still owned by the same slave masters as when I was born. She is sleeping in the pantry of her owner's home, but wakens quickly when I knock on a window. A slave child is asleep in the pantry, or so it seems to me, but the child is not asleep. She pretends to be and listens to me tell my mum of my plans. In the morning, she reports me to her owner. Perhaps she will get a little extra food for her effort or an extra day off to see her family. She is a little girl. She wants to see her family or have some extra food. Do you understand why she did this? If you cannot trust a slave child who lives with your mother, who can you trust? So, what is going to happen now? Predicting an outcome. The level 7 books are more sophisticated still, with a common vowel digraph successively added in. The elephant problem has many words with O making the us sound like money and nothing. The book is organized around a problem and a solution, as are great many of the books in the series. It is a common text structure, and understanding the structure of the text aids making predictions, summarizing, finding the gist. So the first part explains the problem. The problem villagers in Kenya had with elephants invading their gardens and demolishing their food. They tried everything: stout walls, deep trenches, electric fences. When I think of elephants, I think of those huge animals that are endangered. I think that man is a big problem for elephants. I wonder what I will learn here. So the farmers of Kenya in East Africa have a huge problem. These farmers depend on the crops they plant to provide their food. Corn, millet, beans, spuds, all these crops are grown by the farmers to eat and to sell for money. But lately, elephants have been getting into the crops. At night, a herd of elephants may invade the gardens, eating up or trampling on everything in sight, leaving the farmer with nothing to eat, nothing to sell. Well, this is a different sort of problem, a problem for the people. I can see that elephants will be a big worry. It sounds as if selling vegetables that the family does not need is the only way these people can get money. It must be a big problem for them, and I suppose they will be trying all sorts of things to stop the elephant. I think we may be told what in the story, and that is again modeling the thinking of competent readers. So, from halfway through the story, is there nothing the farmers can do? Elephants are, well, jumbo sized and very, very strong. Their skin is very thick and they are very, very clever. Does nothing stop them? Is there nothing they are afraid of? Well, I can't think of anything, can you? So far, we have been told the problem and all the things that have been tried and have not worked. I think this last paragraph implies we have been told all that we're going to be told about this. How many ways to stop the elephants have we been told about? Discuss that, summarizing the first part of the book. But there is more story to come. I think the next part will be different, maybe something that will work. I think this because lots of stories work like this, explaining the problem and then going on to the solution. I wonder what it will be, modeling that thinking. So, some experts have been studying elephants. Are these experts going to come up with a solution? I think they will. Why else would they be in the story? If students are truly familiar with the problem solution structure, they will expect this to lead to a solution. As indeed it does. These books directly follow the skill development and word chain, but of course they can be used as an adjunct to any structured literacy program. Any book is suitable if the student can decode the words. The Agility with Sound website has a free, quick and easy decoding test, this is part of it, that will tell you what levels are suitable for your students. Here, these are the sort of words that crop up in level 1 books. If the student can read these effortlessly, then any level 1 book is just fine. Then, these are the sort of words that are introduced in the level 2 books. If the student can read these words without undue concentration, then any of the level 1 or level 2 books are suitable. And then we come to level 3. Can the student read these effortlessly? Will they be able to give their full attention to making connections? If so, any level 1, level 2, or level 3 book will work, and so on. It goes up to level 8. All books are listed on the Agility with Sound website, and you can see a sample page by hovering the cursor over the cover image. These are supplied in several ways. My favourite is a set of 4 or more student books with an accompanying comprehension booklet for the teacher, and with 4 books, that comprehension booklet is free. They are best used in small groups, permitting lots of discussion, or if you're working with one student at a time, as a set of 1 of each title at each level, with these comprehension guides, which are now not free, or with a manual that includes the scripts. And then comes the writing resource, which lifts comprehension to a whole other level and builds the organisation and other writing skills expected of secondary students at the same time. But that is for another video.